Hi, my name is TJ. My dad died of overdose on January 1st, 2011, and my mom is a recovering addict. God helped my mom, and now together we are here to help you. Now let's talk recovery. Here's your host, my mom, Susan Sexton-Wood.
Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk Recovery. I am your host, Susan Sexton-Wood. Today, our special guest comes from Winchester. We have with us Pastor Jeff Bullard from the Freedom Life Church in Winchester on Greenville Pike, and he's going to just share with us his heart to help those that struggle with addiction, the things that he has taken the initiative to do within his own church, and how they partner with other people in the community to help raise awareness, but to also love people right where they are in addiction, and to just try to encourage them to speak out and receive help, as well as with the family members. I know Pastor Jeff gets a lot of recommendations for other people to come see him also. As I'm doing some one-on-ones, I really look toward him for some spiritual guidance and direction to also sit down with people one-on-one and just help lift them up and again, meet them right where they are. And that's one of the biggest things with addiction is we don't know who we are, and we struggle so much with thinking that we can become something else that we need someone to motivate us, lift us up, and just love us right where we are. And so I want to welcome Pastor Jeff for being here on the Let's Talk Recovery show.
Well, Susan, I want to just say it's an honor and it's a privilege to be here with you here today. I've been able to watch a few of your shows over the last month or two as you've started this awesome opportunity to reach out to people that we don't know who might be watching this today. And so, for us, I know for you, I don't want to speak for you, but I know for us, it's important to get as much awareness, to get ourselves out there as much as we can, and this is one more opportunity for us to do that. And so honestly, it's my pleasure to be down here in Richmond and just speak about what's happening and what's going on. So thanks for the invite, and I look forward to just talking a little bit about how we're helping people and how we look forward to what God's going to be doing in people's lives.
Thank you. Well, first, I think just to share with everybody what actually brought you into being a pastor. What brought you into the ministry of being a pastor?
Well, just growing up in high school, I had a lot of, just had a great spiritual upbringing, grew up in church, was around church and ministry all my life. But it really didn't start to really kind of click or happen until I was later on in my high school years. I love sports, and so I played sports and was often focused on that in junior high and high school. But as I grew older and meeting the woman that ended up becoming my wife, late high school, late junior, senior year in high school, started to feel kind of a pull towards ministry. Tried to do everything else that I possibly could, but it kind of kept coming around to this thought that I needed to devote my life to the calling that God put on my life. At that point, it was largely youth ministry. We really had a heart for youth. My pastoral studies, my studies at Bible college was actually youth ministry major, pastoral ministry minor. So I'm very passionate about youth, still am. But we felt like that was going to be really our long term, and it was. We served for 8 years as youth pastors in 2 different locations, Minnesota and then Worcester, Ohio. And then in 2001, we came to what is now Freedom Life Church. It was First Assembly of God back at that time, and began our ministry there, so a little over 16 years. But the call of God was evident. It's something that we've just been passionate about. Our family's been, my 5 daughters. Mm-hmm. Our daughters have been raised in it. That's what we know. We know church. We know the opportunity to help people and trying to ultimately answer Jesus' prayer. Let your will be done. Let your kingdom come. Let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so that's kind of become a passion of ours. And so, in a nutshell, that's kind of where we got the ministry. That ministry calling was evident at an early age, and we're excited about what God's going to do because I'm not done yet.
Right.
So.
Well, we're in 3 different counties in Indiana, And we started off in the Richmond area, and then we went to Connorsville, and then we had the desire to come to Winchester. And about 3 years ago, I had a volunteer go to Winchester and try to get an open door for us to come and bring our Unchained Praises, You Are Not Alone events, where we bring in the community and try to show the effects of addiction, and also show that there's hope after addiction, because we have testimonies of people that have got out of that. And so the volunteer come into your church, and I want you to share kind of that day and what had been going on a couple years before that, which kind of led you to wanting to do something about the drug epidemic. So if you would start kind of a few years
Sure.
before you met us, and what God was putting on your heart to help.
Right. So we went through a time in Winchester and Randolph County, and we're still in it, obviously, but where we started noticing that the drug addiction epidemic was beginning to really to kind of become a stronghold in our area. And the thing we noticed was it wasn't affecting just, I don't know, the stereotypical people that you would say are drug addicts. It was hitting all families, all from the socioeconomic standpoint. Every family was being affected. And there was one young man in our community, I want to say it was 2012, late 2012, passed away of an overdose. And it was a prominent enough family, well-known enough family, that it created a lot of, obviously a lot of attention, much of which was good, some of which was just a lot of noise. And so people were angry, they were frustrated, they wanted answers, they wanted solutions, and I was certainly part of that. And so me along with some of our church leaders, we began praying and just saying, okay, God, what does this look like? Because, there's obviously a disconnect for the most part, at that point anyways, that churches have from those that are battling addiction. And so it's kind of neat. Back in 2008, when we went through our name change, we came up with a slogan to kind of define our church. And we changed our name to Freedom Life Church. But our slogan was real people serving real people living a real life, serving a real God who gives real freedom. And so everything that we do kind of comes back to that. That's not our main vision statement, but that's something that we try to tell people. So trying to make a long story shorter if I can, what happened through that was we felt like there's got to be something we can do. So we prayed, and whenever we can encounter people, we try to make an environment in our church where everybody feels welcome, and I think we've been successful at creating that. But when the volunteer came in that day, it really was like an answer to prayer for us, and I've shared that with you many times. I didn't really know where it was going to go, but I knew I was very intrigued by your story, and so I know I set up a meeting with Susan probably within a week or two after that. Mm-hmm. And it was within a couple months that we then scheduled our first event. And so it was an opportunity for us to just begin to put the pieces together, and we felt like what your story, but not just your story, but your ministry, your heart to help those in addiction, but even more so as well as the families. We felt like we needed to provide a forum and create a space for you to make your way into Randolph County. And so, man, we were thrilled to see all that happen. And goodness, there's been ups and downs. There's been moments it's like, are we making any difference? And there's been moments it's like, would you look at this? Look at what we're doing. And so we've experienced the spectrum of both of those things, but we felt like we just needed to start doing some things systematically. And I think sometimes people will get, into a mode where they're like, well, it's no use, what can I do? I can't really make a big difference, or what I've got to offer isn't really much to offer. And honestly, I didn't come from a life of addiction. As I said earlier, I grew up in the church, so I never have understood much of that process, or the roads that people go down. I've always had tried my best to have compassion for it, but I think until we really connected with what you guys were doing, and now some other organizations obviously that we work with, but until we did that, I don't think that we could have ever had the effectiveness that we now have. And obviously we want more effectiveness, but those things when we began with Unchained Praises, with your ministry, other ministries, awareness in town that's begun to happen, we're just very thankful because we feel like you've been a resource for that. And so, yeah, so we've done a lot of different things, like you said, your events. I try to make myself available to anybody, anyone and everyone that wants to walk through that. And I've walked through with several. Currently, I don't know that there's anybody that I'm meeting with regularly currently, but I always throw it out there. I always keep that in mind for people. Hey, listen, I'll get you started. I might not be able to answer all your questions, but I'll do what I can, and obviously I'm going to lead you to the things that God has to say about them and bringing them into that place of freedom. So, so yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a timeline, but it's been an awesome 3+ years in doing that. Even with the challenges, it's been great to see what God's done.
Right. And we have, during our partnership, like you said, we've had a decent crowd come in for the events, and we've had to where it was just us and the speakers. And really, what I've learned through doing this ministry is sometimes the few that are there when there's not as many people, those are the most powerful events.
Yeah.
And just you standing beside us, I need the motivation, because sometimes I think, am I making a difference? Are we making a difference as a team? Put in as many hours as I have to into this, because we are in different counties. We're moving forward with Kentucky, and we've been offered an office space in a church in Kentucky. And so that's another thing. In Randolph County, we just started the Union City area.
Yes.
And we've been given a space to go in. It's not necessarily an office, but it's a space that we're going to use every Thursday for a couple hours. And it's kind of repeating what we've already done. Through our partnership, that led to opening an office at the Probation and Corrections building. Out of all of the areas that we serve, I can tell you that we've definitely started more one-on-one recovery plans in Winchester, and it probably triples the other areas. I know that the community there comes together a lot. And like you said, there's other organizations that have come alongside of us. And it's not like it's just about one group, one organization, one ministry. It's truly about partnering and what can each group or ministry offer. Yes. And I know there's been several times that somebody comes into your church and they need help and they're talking to you, and you say, okay, well, let me give you Susan's number. Let me send you to Unchained Praises, or let me send you to Brianna's Hope. And I think that's what the community of Winchester shows. It's more about partnering and what can each of us do. And it's not just about, this is the one organization, just go to them for everything, because that's not likely. Right.
Well, one of the things that I've always appreciated about your recovery plans are, and I think you say it in some form like this, but that everybody's recovery is different. There can be key components that you want to build into everybody's, but everybody's is going to look different. And I think, to speak to that, I think that's one of the things that we're trying to implement and trying to stress within our community. It's not always met with the greatest of enthusiasm. There's a lot of people that think theirs is the best, and in a way you want that, but especially because it's faith-based, sometimes there's friction, but from others that might say, well, our way is better. And I think what you've shown and what we try to show is there are a lot of options, and yours might be the entryway to people finding even more options. But let's get them somewhere. Right. Somebody that might not go in and talk to a doctor or somebody like that might feel comfortable going and talking to you. They may get to that point where they can do that, and they can go through whatever programs are available that way, and that's great. But at the same time, I think, so for me, that's been maybe more the struggle the last few years, is helping people understand we've got to get these people an opportunity to talk, and let's not compete. And I think most of our community gets that. I think there's moments that there are some hurt feelings or sometimes heads. We need to get past our own agendas and realize there's a lot of opportunity, and let's get people to that place. And again, getting back to what Unchained Praises is doing in Winchester, it's an opportunity. It's a starting point. Just like we hope that our church, if they can't get to you, they can get to us. There's a starting point for them in their recovery, and certainly right on the heels of that, in their faith in God. So so I guess those are the things I'm excited about, and yet there's still moments where there's struggle. But I'm in this thing, and we want to see all means to get these people to a place of freedom and the ability to function in life. So.
And just as you're talking, it is true. Like a lot of times, even in my own recovery, we're told, go to this meeting or go to this agency, and it's kind of laid out for us. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, if we're not building our own recovery, it just doesn't last. So I would like to see in the future that when somebody is in front of the courts, that they can say, you're going to do something. You're court ordered to do something. And I want you to start building that plan, even if it's come back next week, and I want to see your plan of action. What are you going to do? Yes. And be open to the different agencies. And a lot of times people aren't mandated to come to a Christ-centered organization that offers outpatient or meetings. And so that's it's really on my heart to see that.
Yes.
For them to acknowledge even the Christ-centered organizations, yes, because we're not state paid or government paid, and to keep the Christ in the recovery plan, you can't really get funding for that. Right. And so that's one of the hopes that I have is that will happen, yes, that people are listening to the addict. Even though we need steered in a certain way, if an addict really is having a hard trouble building their plan, then maybe they need it laid out for them until they can learn how to start building, yes, a plan. But we're not listened to enough, and listening to and kind of sugarcoating or babying our situation is not what I'm asking for, because we need constructive criticism, definitely.
Yes.
But if we're open to taking the steps that we need to take and start bettering our lives, why not let us try to build it ourselves, as long as we're doing something? And yes, I think that's the key, is doing, yes, something.
Yes.
So I think of Freedom Life as the hub of Winchester when it comes to addiction, because you open your church to a lot of functions. And I've seen functions about addiction, or, you do weddings, and I've seen people have birthday parties, and you feed the homeless, and you just do a lot of stuff. Would you like to talk about some of the other organizations that you're a part of when it comes to the epidemic? Because not only do you think of us and refer people for one-on-ones, but there are meetings, sure, and there's other things going on in the community, and actually there's a facility going to be opening pretty, yes, soon. Yes. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah. So where we're at in Winchester currently is I've had the opportunity to work with some community organizations, serving on some boards and doing some different things, but it's kind of neat because, again, I didn't ask for this. I mean, it's not like something that I planned 10 years ago in our church plan to, hey, let's have a place where, as you said, it's kind of a hub for those, and that's kind of humbling, that you would say that, but I would hope that people would see that. And I know that there's moments we've had people that have come to our church services that have been under the influence. Mm-hmm. There's people that are coming that are struggling. There's people that are coming that have just recently given up drug or alcohol use. There's family members that have been broken and crushed over lost loved ones. I mean, we've really had, as you said, the ability to reach out into that space. But then what we've also done is we've tried to create opportunities, because we also understand that the normal person in communities isn't going to just always step foot in a church. So we've tried to do things, whether it's on the downtown square, helping give haircuts for kids. It's back to school time. We had what we called a Winchester Fun Day, where we just devoted our whole lot to just touching families. And where's addiction at? Addiction is in the middle of families. Right. And families where people are parents and they're struggling with the addiction. And so we try not to draw any hard and fast boundaries over who's welcome, who's not. We really don't do that. But we try to create a place where people can feel and know that they're loved. One of the biggest things I hear from those that are in addiction is, you're judging us. And we've really tried to create an atmosphere where judgment isn't the thing that they sense or see first, but that we know that God created them for a purpose, and we want to help them find that destiny through Him, through obviously salvation, but we've got to get into their world first. And so the activities and the events and the things that we do, things that we schedule are always what we've been purposeful about these last 2 or 3 years at least, has been trying to find a way into families and homes that, man, they'd never come. And we've probably got, I'd say, a dozen or more people that over the last year have started coming to church that said, I would have never believed that I'd be going to church. And most weeks they're in our church services. And some of them, there's still a lot of mess in some of their lives. But if I'm honest, there's moments that sometimes my life's a mess. Right. So at the end of the day, it's like they're getting an opportunity to come to faith in Christ. And so when you speak of that, activities, events, and things like that, that's our big push. And we've got a growing and vibrant children's ministry that's led by an awesome woman of God who's our assistant pastor. We've got youth ministries. We have things in place that throughout the week people have an opportunity to grow and connect and then as far as the support groups and things, I mean, there's Brianna's Hope in town, which I know you've probably spoken about, that meets on Mondays. We've had other peer groups that have kind of come and gone as there's been need, but those things I think also provide a good base for people as they're dealing with specific issues or problems. Our goal is to build community, get people connected, and get them on their journey. If they're not on it, let's get on it, and let us walk with you. Whether I've served God for over 40 years, and you've only been 40 hours or 40 days, we're all in the same boat. Let's move on this journey together. And so yeah, there's some good opportunities within the community for people to connect and to be a part of something that hopefully is bringing them hope, as one of your mottos, and bringing them a sense that, hey, I can do this. And so yeah, we've been blessed to see some success. There's still a lot of heartbreak, but we've seen some success, and we want to continue pushing to see God do all that He can do.
And that's kind of what I see with Freedom Life is you meet people right where they are. A couple things, just our partnership in the probation and corrections building where our office is. I know I come to you one time and said I would like to have Bibles there for anyone who, because we tell them that we're Christ-centered, and even though we don't push it because it is a touchy subject for people that are coming out of the world of addiction, we don't want to scare them. And that kind of goes back to we build our relationship with God, and it's perfect to say we need to build our own recovery plan. Because that's how it will last. But you helped Unchained Praises get Bibles for the office so that we're able to give those out so that everybody has an opportunity to at least have a Bible. And I've done that, a few times. And there's actually been one incident in Winchester that someone was saved in the office. And so when we look at God's being taken out of schools and He's being taken out of places, it's kind of exciting that we're actually taking God into, some facilities. And then I see people that have come into Unchained Praises and started working on their recovery plan, and they're going into Freedom Life Church. And that is a good feeling too, because they're not just stopping at, working on themselves a little bit and giving up, but you actually see them move forward. Yes. There's a couple people that have changed their life, jobs, and, just building their life. And that's what recovery is all about, is watching that change and that growth. I know that one of the big events for the addiction epidemic is Overdose Awareness Day. And then you started um, an event, what's it called?
420 for hope.
420. And that's a saying in addiction
Yes.
that a lot of people have used. And I really, until you started talking about that,
Yeah.
I didn't know what it meant. And
Yeah,
I'm
it's
a
connected
recovering
certainly to
addict.
marijuana use. Right.
But that event, if you want to briefly kind of talk about that, because that's
Sure.
it's been 2 years now that
Yeah.
you've done it, and it's a yearly thing now.
Yes. Yeah, so we're going to do it obviously again this year. We just call it 420 for Hope. It's on our downtown square. Last year it was rain, so we actually had to move it indoors, and so that put a little bit of a damper on it, but we still had a great turnout. But basically it's just coming together, and we have different areas that we pray for. We pray for our community leaders, police officers, different ones like that. Go down through churches and ministries, and then we have some music and just different things. But and obviously for the addicts and the families that are involved in that epidemic. And the first year we had over 200 people on the downtown square, and then we had at least that many that kind of joined us at our church last year. We're going to look to do it again this year. But it's an opportunity to, again, draw the community together, just like the Overdose Awareness Day in August, to pray, to be mindful of that, but then to show people you're not alone. And that's our hope.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time out from Winchester and coming in and just sharing your heart, because the biggest thing that I've learned in ministry is that we need partnership, and we can definitely not do this alone. And you hear that in the recovery world, like you can't do it alone, but who can do anything alone? We can't do life alone.
Right.
And so I thank you for being a part of the ministry and meeting people where they are and accepting people with open arms in the church of Freedom Life. I've seen your ministry grow even as I've been around these few years, and it's just exciting to watch. If you are a part of the Winchester community, I want to invite you to join Freedom Life Church, and they have a Facebook page. I believe you have a web page.
We do not have a web page. We're working on that.
Okay.
Our Facebook page is our big communicator right now. Over 1,000 likes, so there's a lot of information.
And
we put
that's
on there.
usually Facebook is
Yes.
where everybody's at. But if you're interested in visiting Freedom Life Church, or you just need someone to talk to, give Pastor Jeff a call. And if he can't help you with your needs, he has the book of wherever he needs to send
Yes.
you to help you. He would be happy to meet with you and pray with you and help just kind of counsel you in life, spirituality. And he does take time to mentor whoever comes his way. And so we want to thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Recovery. We want to encourage you, if you're struggling today, then to reach out to someone. You can message us on Facebook. You can reach out to us with the number in our offices in Winchester. We're in Richmond and Connorsville. And so there's lots of opportunity to help you will help lead you to the path that you may need. And so we just encourage you to keep on fighting and take one day at a time. And don't forget that you are not alone. And we again want to thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Recovery.